pay me enough, you can't gaslight me enough, you can't feed me those weak talking points, I'm not voting for him. I don't see how anybody in their right state of mind can look at what's going on right now nationally and internationally and scream Biden 2024. It will not sit well with my spirit to know that I cast a ballot for someone like him. This whole concept of gaslighting people into voting for Biden because he's better than Trump, I'm letting you know it's far gone.
Hey, welcome back. It's your man Wise, and today I have a great video to share with you all. This is a video that I found from the Isaiah Factor. Are Black people neglected by the Democrat Party? Now, you and I, we know the truth, right? You and I, we know the truth, but I am very interested to hear what these brothers and sisters on this panel has to say. Before we get into the video, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. I appreciate all the love and support. I really do. AskWiseToday@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me. And without further ado, let's go.
Now, according to the Pew Research Center, 80% of Black voters identify with the Democratic Party compared to just 7% who identify as Republican. But in the current political climate, the question arises, how much does the Democratic Party care actually about Black people? Joining me now to discuss this topic are Representatives Yolanda Jones and Ron Reynolds, along with Republican attorney Kevin Fulton. Let's begin with State Representative Ron Reynolds. Your thoughts on this? You have been a lifelong Democrat dedicated to the party. Are they doing the most to show appreciation to Blacks?
Isaiah, I'm going to be very candid with you. They are not. I think that the Democratic Party has taken the African-American vote for granted. African-Americans have been the lifeblood of the Democratic Party, the most loyal base of the Democratic Party. And that loyalty has been often taken for granted when it comes to consultants, when it comes to candidates that they're investing in, candidates that they're promoting for higher office. Blacks have not gotten the kind of support that they should get based on the enormous support that they give to the Democratic Party. So I think there's room for improvement. Unfortunately, African-Americans hadn't had much of a choice because the Republican Party's policies don't benefit the African-American community. So we're kind of...
I'm going to disagree with him on that note. He was on a roll for a second. That's why I let him talk, but I'm going to disagree with him on that note. The Republican policies, especially the policies that President Donald Trump implemented while he was in office, were phenomenal. It's not a situation where there has been no policies. It's the fact that they're not aware of the policies. Heck, they're not even aware of the policies that they've been voting on for 67 odd years. They have no idea. All they know is Republican, racist, and bad. Democrats, nice, good, positive, and they like us. That's all they know. They have no idea why they continue to vote for Democrats. They couldn't tell you why.
Stuck in a rock and a hard place, and the Democratic Party has been the best party for our values. Unfortunately, we've been taken for granted.
All right.
The best party for Black Americans' values, who at once upon a time were some of the most religious people in the country. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again, but we've already talked about this. You can't be a Christian and a liberal at the same time. The principles, the philosophies are completely antithetical to each other. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But again, this brother here, he has no idea what he's talking about.
Kevin, are you asking yourself why hasn't more African Americans or Blacks investigated or looked into conservative groups like you're part of or Republican Party?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just the brainwashing that goes on when it comes to being Black and growing up in Black communities, in Black neighborhoods. I was a Democrat before I switched parties, and I can tell you that I felt that the Democrat Party no longer valued my vote, and so I looked to do something else. Look at it. Representative Reynolds is correct. We give the vote to the Democratic Party higher than any demographic there is out there. Yet what have we gotten for that? We've got our communities still with high crime. We have health disparities. You look at what's going on in some states like New York, where it's a liberal bastion, and they are taking money out of Black programs and giving it to people who've entered illegally. You look at Chicago, And Chicago's taking away community centers and things like that away from Black communities and giving them to other people that have just entered the community. I look at California. That's supposed to be a liberal utopia. And do you realize in California, there's 52 Congress people elected every 2 years, and they have not elected a Black man in 24 years. That is unbelievable. And the reason why is because they feel like they don't have to do anything for Black people because they are going to get the vote at a high level regardless of what they do. And I would like to see the Republican Party stop thinking no matter what we do, Blacks are never going to vote for us. That attitude has to go away. And I think Black people, the Black Caucus has a great saying: no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. Put our interests out there and make both parties try to gain the vote.
Absolutely. This brother is 100% correct. And back in, what was that, back in 2020, when brother Ice Cube had his plan for Black America, or the Platinum Plan, I don't even recall, I can't recall exactly what it was, but those were the talking points. He's like, yo, we need to speak to both sides. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Trump was willing to lend an ear. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said, oh, yeah, we'll get back to you. And he's still waiting. So he's 100% right there. The other piece is that I think this time around, things have gotten so bad that Black people, they are kind of pushed in a corner to where they don't have a choice but to look at the other options. And the other piece of it is that these liberal-led cities are the worst cities in the country. And they're definitely the worst cities in the country for Black people. When you look at Baltimore, you look at Chicago, you look at New York City, it's ridiculous. You look at St. Louis, you look at New Orleans. These are some of the worst places to live if you are a Black person. And these are liberal-led cities. Places like Chicago haven't had a Republican mayor, in over 90 years. Baltimore hasn't had a Republican mayor. You'd have to go back to the 60s to find that. So when you look at this, and he's 100% right, the brainwashing has been so profound and has worked at such a high level. The Democrats have gotten to a point where they take the Black vote for granted, and they have absolutely no reason to do anything for Black people because they know no matter what, they're going to vote for them in mass. All they have to do is throw out that dog whistle of racist. The Republicans are racist, and that's it. That is it. I've had so many conversations with older Black people. They don't know policies. They couldn't even tell you a policy that the Democrats has implemented that they like because they don't know policies. They couldn't tell you a Republican policy that was implemented that they liked or did not like because they don't take the time to do any research. The Black population has been voting at almost a 90% clip for Democrats, and a large majority of them could not tell you why.
State Representative Jolanda Jones, let's bring you into this conversation. Hearing what Kevin Fulton had to say as a conservative, why haven't you considered the Republican Party as a state-elected Democrat?
So when you look at the things that the Republican Party votes for in the House, they literally pass legislation that is not good for Black people. So what I try to do.
Give an example. See, you can't make a anecdotal statement without at least giving one example. You're on a panel. You got time. Give us one example. Now, we already knew the sister no matter what, because Black women are going to vote Democrat. They can't tell you why they're going to vote Democrat other than Roe versus Wade and the ability to terminate their pregnancies in the name of healthcare. Other than that, they can't tell you why they're going to go out and vote en masse for these people that have absolutely nothing to give them or offer them. She's cooked. You know what time it is with her.
It's to stay within the Democratic Party and push the party to do better. I think a perfect example of how Black people aren't supported by the Democratic Party as they should is to look at elections 2 years ago. The only Democrats, I'm going to say that again, the only Democrats that lost in the last elections were Black Democrats with Black sounding names. What does that mean in layperson's terms? It means, for the most part, Democrats voted for people that they thought were Democrats, but if they sounded Black, then they voted for somebody other than Democrats, where actually Republicans benefited from that. So there's a lot to be done. When I used to be on the state Democratic Executive Committee.
So what she's telling you is that Democrats and liberals, especially white liberals, are racist. She said it. I'm just letting y'all know, read between the lines. I've read between the lines, and I'm just throwing that out there. That's what she's telling you. If you got a ethnic sounding name, a Raheem or a DeAndre or something, and you running for office as a Democrat, the likelihood of you winning, slim to none, sir. Slim to none.
Much more money was put into, for example, Latino outreach than Black outreach, which I've always said this. Black people are the highest demographic who vote for Democrats. So if you get us to the polls with GOTV efforts, then we're going to over 90% vote for Democrats. If you get other demographics, you have Hispanic people that some are Democrats, some are Republicans. So if you just drive Latinos to the polls, it's a mixed bag. Some may vote for Democrats, some may vote for Republicans. And so the Democratic Party has not figured out that it needs to speak about issues that are important to Black people in the Democratic Party. For example, criminal justice reform is important to Black people. That is something that will motivate us to come to court. To come to the polls, whereas abortion is a bigger issue for not Black people. So if all of your messaging is abortion, 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 we're entitled to abortion, then some Black people will stay home. And so unless and until...
Well, even when it comes to criminal justice reform, President Trump did sign the First Step Act, which went in and not only let people out of jail, but it modified a lot of the foolery, or amended a lot of the foolery that was placed in there from Joe Biden via the 1994 crime bill. There were some modifications, some really good modifications, such as giving judges a little more discretion, lowering those mandatory minimums. There were some real solid implementations there within the First Step Act. She won't recognize what Trump did while he was in office with that particular bill. That's what I'm saying. They're so, the thing is that a lot of the sisters, not all, but some, they're so far gone that they won't look at things from a logical perspective. They can only look at things from how they feel about it. And because they feel that something is racist or not right, they won't even take the time to really go and do their own research and dig a little bit and then make a decision. That's the problem right there. When you start using feelings to make a decision based on your life, normally it doesn't work out well. How many dudes are locked up right now because they felt disrespected, even when they were not? When you are overly emotional, you tend to make very bad choices and decisions. And that's what we see a lot of the times with the sisters. They're looking at this from an emotional standpoint and not looking at this logically.
Until the Democratic Party leadership starts listening to its Black electeds, because we tell them what are Black issues, when they start listening to us, I think that Harris County will be solidly Democratic until they start doing that. Right now, you have Republicans who are getting elected citywide, Republicans who are getting elected countywide. When, say, for example, in Dallas County, they figured it out and they always get Democrats. So Harris County, and actually Harris County and across the country, you hear all the stuff they're saying about Biden and issues that he's talking about that's not motivating Black people to come out to vote. So Democrats, we've got to do better. Otherwise, this country is going to be destroyed.
Dr. Dietrich von Biedenfeld, University of Houston downtown. Let's hear your perspective and how the African-American voter, how they're treated by the Democratic Party.
Right. I think the prior speakers have touched on this idea of being taken advantage. And when we think about it from an economic standpoint, we see this with employers. Employees who switch jobs oftentimes see higher salaries than those who show proven loyalty to their employer. The person who stays there gets that 2% year-over-year raise, and the person who comes in new has a competitive market salary.
Absolutely. He hit the nail on the head right there. I tell people all the time, you want to raise, you got the dip. You can't stay at your company for 5 to 10 years thinking that they're going to do right by you. They are not. You have to leave. Matter of fact, after you've been at a company about no more than 3 years, it's time to get your resume together and start looking for another opportunity. And do not take the counteroffer when you find it. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go back a year, 2 years down the line if that opportunity or a better opportunity presents itself there. But at that point, you're going back with leverage with a higher wage, a higher salary that you can negotiate based off of. That's the problem right there. Black people have been voting for the same party for 60 years. When that happens, of course, they're going to take you for granted. Of course, they're not going to offer you anything. Of course, they're not going to negotiate with you. That's not how this works. They know you are a loyal subject. They don't have to offer you anything because you are a loyal subject. Now, I will say this, the black vote, I would say older people, a lot of them, they're set in their ways. They're going to do what they're going to do. Although I have seen in the comment section, there is a number of brothers out there saying, you know what, I am not voting for these people anymore. And I've seen a number of brothers that said that they got off that plantation a long time ago. So shout out to them. But the younger generation, Gen X and lower, I think the vote will be split. And I'm so looking forward to seeing how that breaks down after the election come November. We know there's going to be a large amount of older people, but what will it look like? People that are 50 years old and younger. I'm almost for certain that the vote is going to be split. Maybe not completely 50-50, but it's going to be closer to 50-50 than a 90-10 the way it has been in the past.
So I think the Democratic Party has seen a very real concern that the Hispanic population is increasing vastly more rapidly than the black population. So from a strategic or economic perspective, there is an incentive to draw in those votes. There's also the competitive nature, though, where if you think 30% or so of Hispanics voted for Trump, but only or fewer than 15%, probably closer to 8% voted for Trump out of the black population. Why am I worried about this? Well, again, strategically, you would say common sense. Who carried Joe Biden through Georgia? Who carried Joe Biden through Pennsylvania? Black voters. But then looking at the population, looking at the economic parity, that $1.3 to $1.5 trillion spending power of the black population, the Hispanic population is catching up with that very quickly. We're just not having babies. And so I think these concerns on a very real point of totemism say, okay, Squirrel Clan, Bear Clan, whatever, the Democratic Party hasn't looked at that, but they also are looking strategically and saying we need more people. But I think the economic part of this is a lot of times when you look at consumers, you may have people who are very vocal about a certain product that they can't afford. And we think back to the resignation of a certain Mississippi senator years ago for comments positive towards Strom Thurmond, a segregationist. He didn't have to resign from leadership in a realistic sense because his voters in Mississippi would have sent him back another 6 years, maybe if he had made even more controversial comments. So when we think about this interplay, I think black voters overall, and this is one of the challenges Joe Biden has experienced in retaining popularity, is the economics aspect and the realization that there is more distinction between social conservatism or liberalism and fiscal conservatism and liberalism, and the black community does not see the economic benefits. Many people, this is a census thing, not a party thing, are looking at not going to church, not having those same socially conservative values. So when you remove that attraction or area of social concern or social welfare and you say, let's just look at the money, well, which party is doing the most for us? And I do think that the Democratic Party has said, we don't have to do as much for these people because they're going to show up, versus this other community, we need to entice them. There are more of them. The economic power is growing. And there's a better chance that if we can swing them, it'll reduce the turnout.
Dr. Claude Anderson talked about this. Dr. Claude Anderson talked about this 20, almost 30 years ago. He said that the replacements are coming. He said it, and now look at it. Fast forward 20, 25 years from that speech, and here we are today. And the Democrats have already decided we're going to pivot because we have the black vote already. We're pivoting because we're going to go focus on the Latinos because their population is growing. A lot of it is because of Democrat policies, obviously. and their spending power is continuing to grow. So when you look at that, we're on our way to no longer being number 2 in this country. We're on our way to being number 3 and possibly number 4 when you look at the rank in the totem pole. When you look at that, on the flip side of that too, when you look at the Latino population, a lot of them are Catholics, and they actually do vote in accordance to their beliefs, unlike a lot of black people. A lot of black people consider themselves to be Christians of some sort, whether it's Baptist or AME or something along those lines, but they consistently vote against their beliefs. Like I said, I keep saying this, when you look at the liberal agendas, you look at the liberal policies, they're actually against the word of God. So if you are voting solely based on what you believe as your faith, with good conscience, you couldn't possibly vote for Democrats because what they want to do is actually against what you believe. It's mind-boggling to me. It really is, that you have a group of people that consider themselves to be conservative Christian types, but yet they continuously vote against what they say they believe.
Representative Reynolds, if blacks walked away, what do you think it will take to get the attention of the Democratic Party, to get the attention that black voters deserve?
Well, Isaiah, there's been talk. I mean, you see it right now with Biden's polling numbers, with African Americans, particularly African American men, saying, no, we're not voting for you. We're not supporting you. He would lose the election if the African American turnout goes significantly down in those swing states. Quite frankly, there won't be a Biden victory. Many of the Democrats won't win in these elections for Congress and U.S. Senate. The Republicans will retake the Senate and they'll keep the House. And so African Americans, President Douglas said it best, that power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. We have to demand a seat at the table. We won't continue to be on the menu. The issues that African Americans care about have to be front and center and paramount. And so President Biden, I think we have his attention, but unfortunately, sometimes it takes people losing elections. I don't want that to happen, but unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. I think then it'll be like, oh, I wish we could have, should have. We'll be playing armchair quarterback. So I'm hoping and praying, and I'm imploring upon the Democratic Party. We've done it here at the state level. We're doing it.
What is he praying for? How this man here? Oh yeah, he's a Democrat. There's no prayers needed. Prayers for what? Prayers for more pregnancy terminations? Prayers for more social injustice from the left and from the Democrat Party? What are you praying for? Come on, man, this is ridiculous. We're on path. We're on a verge to repeat what happened in 1956. And hopefully, we'll surpass those numbers of 1956. Eisenhower won the White House, or with the historic amount of the African American or the black vote. 36% of black people voted for Eisenhower back in 56. That number this year, it should be 40 plus, especially with everything that Joe Biden has done. The policies are failed, not only just black people, but the policies have failed Americans, period. There is no reason that anybody should jump on board and vote for these guys. No reason.
At the national level, saying, look, you guys better pay attention or else we will lose and we will be miserable with these failed Republican policies. So I think we got their attention, and we just have to change course before it's too late, before the election happens in November.
I don't know that we've gotten their attention, Representative. I just don't think that we have. They're not listening to us. Like, if I were the Democratic Party, say, across the country and even in Texas, I would literally talk to my black elected officials who live in the communities that they represent, and I would say, hey, what's going to move your voters to the polls? Because I think that when you're talking about economic prosperity and what actually gets people to the polls. That's a problem when you got Black women dying at higher rates when they deliver babies, when you have Black babies dying at higher rates, when you have more Black people getting killed by the police, when you have more Black people not having access to healthcare, loans, or affordable housing. You've got to speak to those issues to motivate us to come to the polls and try to vote for you so that our lives can be better. And when you are deciding that there are more people because they're having more babies and we have a better chance for them to vote for us when there's not a history of them voting for us, I think you're going for what is it called? Something in the hand is worth one in the bush. I can't remember what that is. And that's where I think that we're failing. And I know that myself and Chairman Reynolds constantly and consistently talk to the Democratic Party and say, hey, this is what we need to do. I've had this same conversation with Beto O'Rourke when he ran for governor. These things need to be done in order to motivate Black people to come to the polls to help Democrats win. And nobody listened to us. I know they didn't listen to me.
Well, why should they listen if every time there's an election coming up, Blacks complain about what they're not getting, but then they head to the polls and give 90% of their vote to the same party? Like at some point, there has to be some type of repercussion for not listening. And that hasn't happened yet. So the minute they stay home, or the minute they start looking at policies that are favorable for our Republican Party. Look, you talked about criminal justice reform. Who passed criminal justice reform? A Republican passed criminal justice reform. Trump did. If you don't believe me, look it up. You're a lawyer. Look it up. Criminal justice reform was passed and signed by Trump.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Who actually pushed it. Funding for historical Black colleges. I guess you're going to forget that happened also under Trump. He provided more funding for historical Black colleges than any president before. So
thank you, brother. Come on now, drop those facts on him.
I'm not saying you have to like Trump or look at Trump, but I'm saying even look at your local Republican Party, look at your county Republican Party, look at your state Republican parties, and see if there's something in the platforms that you believe in that helps the Black community. Even tax credits for hiring people from low-income areas. That's something that the Republican Party has constantly pushed and has gotten resistance from. So all I'm saying is,
talking about those opportunity zones. Absolutely, absolutely.
Our loyalty should not be to one party. Our loyalty should be to the interests that best serve our community. And if our interests in our communities are not being served by a party, then we have to look at other options rather than saying every time at a 90% rate, we're going to keep going back to that same party. And I hate the idea that we're loyal to a party more than our community. I see headlines. I saw one the other day. USA Today said, "Oh, the Blacks are abandoning the Democratic Party." Abandon? You can abandon your kids, your family, your friends because you have loyalty to them. Then I can see the word abandon. You're not abandoning a party because we have no loyalty to them. We should pick what is best for our communities, and right now that's just not happening.
Without a doubt. Shout out to that brother right there. I did not get his name, but shout out to him for shutting them down. They needed to hear it because but the thing is, they both know it. Both Democrats in there, the sister and the brother, they both know it. Everything that he said was true. That's why they didn't interject. They both know what he said was true. They just don't want it to be true. And they wish it was the Democrats that passed these policies. They wish. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. See, Black people need to become a lot more politically astute. Start doing your research. I want to be a beacon to just give you some insight. And then I want you to go out there and do the research on your own, because I don't want you to take what I say for face value. I want you to hear it and say, you know what? Let's see if he's right. Let me go do some research. Like I said, everybody has a phone. Everybody's literally walking around with a computer in their pocket. Information has never been freer in the history of mankind than it is right now. The access to information is so readily and easily accessible. You have no excuse. Take some time off of the YouTube channels. I hope you continue watching mine. Take some time off of Netflix and Hulu and take some time to do a little digging. It won't take you long. Matter of fact, nowadays you can jump on any of these AI platforms and ask it just about anything. These things are like walking encyclopedias and stuff. You can find just about anything that you want to know about history within these AI platforms. And then you can cross-reference that just to make sure that it's giving you proper information. Just take some time to do some research. If you want to continue voting for Democrats, by all means, that is your civic right to do. But at least understand and know what you're voting for. I'm so tired of hearing people tell me they vote Democrat no matter what. And you ask them, so what policy are what policy has really pushed you to continue voting for these people? They know nothing. They can't tell you. All they can tell you is the Republicans are racist. That's all they can tell you. They can't tell you an actual policy that they love. I've talked to people that said that they love Barack Obama. And I was like, Barack Obama didn't do anything for black folks. I was like, name a policy that was good that Barack Obama implemented for black people, heck, for Americans that wasn't a part of the LGBT community. Name a policy. Oh, I don't know. I don't know anything about policies. I just know that. See, identities. It's all about the identity. We got to scrap this identity politics and we got to get to policies. Looking at policies. Now, if you can check out, the policies and you can go down that list and say, you know what, I agree with that. That's the direction that you should be going. Even if it's on the Democrat side, if you like the policies that they want to implement, by all means, go for it. But at least have an understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's all I ask. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. I'm looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you. Keep God first in your life, America first, and I'll catch up with you guys next time. Peace.